Very full. Let's see. What is up, Johnny? Nice to see you today, my friend. Oh, sorry about that. Speaker, microphone. Okay. I'd like to assemble. Window for the cat to hopefully occupied a little bit. He was rudely awoken. He was sleeping, and smoke detector's battery was starting to go low, so it started beeping out. So it beeped for a while, woke him up. So it was the one right next to where he was sleeping. Surely he would be napping right now, but today we are presents. All right, so I am a few minutes slow here, but let's get started. I think I'm ready. I've fixed the link there. Yeah, all right. Go to the browser. I did not actually open up CircuitPython. We're not technically doing CircuitPython today, but I'll still talk about it a little bit. For anyone that's new or catches this in the future, if you don't know, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. I stream usually around this time each week, 10 a.m. Central Time on Saturdays. I am most typically working on stuff related to CircuitPython, which is a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers, even tinier than the tiny computer called the Raspberry Pi right here, which we're going to work on today. CircuitPython runs on even smaller computers, both in physical size and also in computing power. And they allow you to interface with other electronical components. So CircuitPython is a way that you can program these devices. When you use CircuitPython with them, the way it usually works, you plug it into your computer with a USB cable. It shows up like a thumb drive. You can edit a Python code file on that thumb drive, and when you save it, the microcontroller, the actual computer that's in the chip here, it will interpret and execute the Python code for you. And then your code is capable of interfacing with any electronical components that are hooked up to the pins of the microcontroller. And there are all different shapes and sizes and purposes for these microcontrollers. Some of them have built-in connectors for like RGB matrix panels. This one is made to be like a macro pad device. EDU Pico, this has a bunch of broken out little connectors for you to easy connect wires, it looks like. So this is some kind of teaching device. So there's all kinds of different ones of these. 618 of them right now support CircuitPython. So this is usually what I work on, although today, like I said, we are in Raspberry Pi land, so we're working on regular Python, C Python, the Python that just runs on regular computers, not CircuitPython. So that's what we'll be doing today. And I will say about CircuitPython, since it is what I usually work on and is kind of currently my main employment, I will say CircuitPython is sponsored by Adafruit. They pay myself and a few other folks, a team of folks, to work on CircuitPython and other surrounding things, the documentation, the projects, the infrastructure, all kinds of different stuff related to it. Adafruit is a hardware and software company based out of New York. They sell microcontrollers like the ones we were just talking about. They also sell Raspberry Pis if you want to get a Raspberry Pi to do something like I'm working on today. They also have all kinds of other little doodads that you can hook up to your Raspberry Pi or microcontroller to build, interesting projects out of. So if you want to help support CircuitPython and all the rest of the open source software that Adafruit allows us to work on, pays us to work on, one of the easiest ways to do that is by purchasing hardware from them at their website, adafruit.com. Thanks to them and everyone who does purchase hardware from them or just watches the stream and doesn't. That's totally cool as well. Let us go to, let's start here and let's get the terminal ready. So I'll show you what we're working on today and then we'll jump in and start working on it. So visually, there's not much going on here. This is a Raspberry Pi 5. It has the Adafruit voice bonnet plugged on top of it, which gives it access to some speaker outputs. There is a 3.5mm jack sort of hidden underneath there that is not plugged in, and then there's these two JST plugs which are connected to these two speakers I have here. So this thing allows the Raspberry Pi obviously to play sound out of those speakers. By default, the Raspberry Pi can send sound out of the HDMI ports. And older ones, they had a 3.5mm. I don't think this one does, Raspberry Pi 5, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you could do some kind of USB audio situation. I don't really know. But this is nice because we can just play hardware right out of the speakers there. And it gets hooked up into the Pi's own system. So like, it doesn't really matter what you play the sound through. Once you get this thing installed and set up as the like output card, it just comes through these speakers, which is really nice. So with that, I have been tinkering, to kind of set the stage, some of the recent things that I have worked on. So I've been doing some stuff with LLMs on Raspberry Pis, and so this is part of where this comes from. In fact, the logo there in the thumbnail, this one here, is the Hugging Face logo, which is for the model that I ended up using for today's thing, this small LLM 3 model. So this is a guide all about running these local LLMs on the Raspberry Pi, namely the Raspberry Pi 4 and 5. And then the other one, which kind of ties into this, is the other guide that I worked on sort of recently, Kitten TTS right here, speech synthesis. So this should look familiar to you if you just saw, wham, this thing right here. We have all the same stuff, and this is a guide about using this project called Kitten TTS, which is a text-to-speech. That TTS usually means text-to-speech in this context. So you can give it a string of text, and it will give you back a WAV file, an audio WAV file, which you can then play, and it will, everything works as intended. It will be a person speaking whatever text you put into it. I have recently become aware of this other one, Piper 1 GPL GitHub. I'm there. Yeah, thing right here. Shout out to Liz, Blitzity DIY, found this for another new project. I don't know if that one is out yet. Look. Not yet. So keep an eye on the new guides. There will be a guide coming which uses this one. But it's not out yet. But in any case, this is how I learned of it. Liz working on that guide. Shout out to her. She shared this one with me. This one is really cool. It's the same. It's like an alternative to Kitten TTS. It's a thing. You give it a string. It gives you a WAV file. You can play it out of some speakers. Everyone's happy. This one, though, actually has a lot more capabilities currently than Kitten TTS. For one thing, it has a lot of languages. Like, look at this list of languages here. Has an insanely big list of languages that it can do. And then the other thing is each language has a handful of different voices that you can do. There's different qualities. There's different stuff. So the multilingual aspect of this one is the thing that is most interesting to me currently, along with the fact that this small LLM3, this is also a multilingual LLM. If we go somewhere here, languages 6, is that a... I don't want that. Is that a link? No, it is not. It is just blue. Multilingual support right there. But it's... In any case, I happen to know them. Well, we could go to the... Not a link. Here. Thinking of here. Bilingual. Yeah, so here, this LLM supports English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, and Portuguese, all of which are also languages that Piper supports. So you can probably see where we're going here. I have built like a little translator thing that I can pass an English string into, and then any of those other 5 languages, Spanish, German, French, Italian, Portuguese, we can select any of those. We can use small LLM3 running on the Raspberry Pi to convert English to that other language. Then we can use Piper 1, I guess, to speak that other language, to get a WAV file of that, translated message. I will stop telling you about it and show you more. Even though there's nothing to see, unless you can see sound waves through a camera recording, which is interesting. If you can do that, let me know. That's pretty cool. Need to get into this. Here. We downloaded all of these Piper Onyx files. This is like a thing for these text-to-speech models. Not super familiar with it, but from what I gather, it's like a data storage format for text-to-speech models. Something mapping text into wave bytes or something like that. And then we also have the model file for small LLM3. I am using Olama to interact with the LLM, and then the one tricky bit is small LLM3. I know I just said I'll show you. I guess I'll show you first, and then I'll... But, there's one other tricky bit. Because of the model we picked, it's not listed in the thing. We got to run this other thing, but I'll tell you that in a minute, or I'll show you that in a minute. In any case, we get to actually doing it. So translator, we're in the virtual environment. So we can now just go Python translator. We can give it whatever we want to translate. So maybe welcome to live stream. And it's good for like a word or a short phrase. I have not really tested longer stuff purposefully. I did once. And then it defaults to Spanish, so I'll just let it run like this. It is faster sometimes than others, so I don't know exactly how long, maybe 10 seconds or so is kind of on the fast side. Which is not super fast for like most programs, but I think it's considered really fast, I think, for what it's doing. And all locally on the Pi again, so this is all going in there. I think running the LLM right now to translate it, you can usually tell when it stops the blink. That's what it's doing. And I just picked the speakers up so that it's gonna get hopefully picked up by the microphone better.
Bienvenido al transmisión en vivo.
There you go. Welcome to the live stream. And I've been checking some of these. I haven't done 100. I don't speak any of the rest of these languages, unfortunately, so I can't confirm, just right away if that's correct or not. But I have been checking some of them through other translating things, and so far they seem relatively good. There are cases where I've asked it to translate things that don't go exact and like inexact, and that's kind of what you would expect. But for most things where there is a good translation, it's been coming up the same from other translating services. And then we could do the other languages as well, right? Because I listed all the rest of those. So there's this. If you go -L for languages, you can choose. So ES is the default one that it will go to. But you can also do any of the others. So we could say like Italian, for instance. Again, and it will regenerate with a new translation and then a new wave file of speaking that translation.
Benvenuto al live stream.
Go. Got an exclamation point in that one. So this is really cool, I think. Like, the fact that these two different things exist, and like the Python code to do this is 65 lines, and a bunch of it is honestly just kind of setting up the arguments and maps of strings to strings. Like, there's really more like 40 lines of business code here that's like doing stuff related to translating and wave filing. It's like calling the LLM right here. Olama makes this super easy with the Python API. Gets the translation back. Get the voice initialized, I guess. Load the voice that we want. Write it to a wave file. Play it back. And aplay is just a system program that exists on the Raspberry Pi. Or, I don't know, it's probably not a system program per se, but I'm pretty sure it's preloaded. I guess I'm not 100% certain. I didn't install it at some point, but it's either preloaded or you can install it very easily with apt, as far as I can recall. I think it was just preloaded, honestly. So this is really cool, I think, capability for the Raspberry Pi 5 again. So all of this stuff is running locally on the Pi 5. It's not instantaneous, but it's really good for what it's doing, I think. And so I think what I want to work on today is expanding the functionality a little bit further of what I have. So right now it can just simply take whatever you give it in English, output it in whatever language you asked for, or Spanish by default, and that is it. I think there's a few ideas I have for making it a little bit sort of more functionally useful, and then maybe it will end up as a guide. I'm not sure yet. I haven't talked to the boss folks about that part of it yet. But what I will... Does that work? It does. Okay, so argparse actually just does this for you, which is super cool. Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing I was going to say is we should give it a help if it doesn't get it automatically. But it does, it turns out. Argparser for us, so that's cool. So one thing I think that would make it super useful is it does actually just save the most recent translation, which is right there, and I could just play that again, right? Without redoing the... That one doesn't come through because of the speakers are now down there in the camera frame, and the microphone is kind of directional. Has a noise gate as well, so stuff that's not right around the place where my face talking is doesn't really get picked up that much. Yeah, but you heard it before. It played the same thing it played before. So the first thing I would like to do is give the CLI, the translate this thing, the ability to play those. I would like to kind of build up a history, I think, because I think it'd be useful, like, let's say you wanted to practice another language, right? Like you're practicing, flashcards, or you're practicing pronunciation, or like being able to recognize by ear, for instance, like listening. I think it'd be good to be able to just say, like, translate this. Okay, now replay that to me. Okay, play it again. Play it again. And then, like, I can practice saying it, and then I can listen, and then practice. So I think a history would be really cool. So that is what I'm going to start with. And I'm just going to go pretty... How I erased that, if not cut. That's interesting. Probably pressed Control X. I'm just going to go super basic to start with, I think. With JSON, just going to save a file. File's going to be the state. Just kind of build up. Have some deletes if we want. I am going to make a folder called translation waves. I'm going to start saving the wave files into there. And so let's start adding it to the history. So I actually don't have a history file yet. Manually. Let's say... So there is an os.path, but that's a different... So let's say the file... That's not there yet, then we'll make one real fast. Object. I think for now... I think I'm just gonna store the list for right now. We certainly could add more stuff. Like, one thing I did think about at one point was a setting. The user could control, like, how big the history list will get. So if you only wanted it to be 20 or 10 or 100, if you wanted to give it a limit, maybe we could have another setting for that. For now, I think I'm just going to leave it as list. Start there, build out more fun. We get an object, we write it to a file. Okay. Package was delivered. I'm gonna run and grab that as well. So, no, sorry. Raining a bit. I don't want it to get rained on all day. Hour and a half. So BRB. Okay. Sorry about that. Coming today. All right, so we're gonna make this file and write the object to it. So that will create it if it has not existed before. Did some tunes. Okay. This will create it. We could run it once to let that happen. Oh, I should actually do that at some point. Probably won't work with uppercase. Make it case insensitive. Here at this time as well.
Willkommen zum Vestrium.
Yeah. That one maybe took a little bit longer. Wasn't exactly, but and then what we will do is open that. This object, history object. Well, what we should do is history list. That, I think. Okay. Why don't we make a def save right, we do need an object. Actually do history object. We'll modify the list in this and then in my head, this is like inside a block and might stop existing at the end of the block, but how it works. One takes this anyway, so it's gonna write. Fair enough. Actually, you know, well, have to have it. I think we'll just have it as the object because that's most flexible when we start adding more. So we get the object. We can now save it by putting it back in there realistically. Pass that in. We're never going to save a different object really. File. Cool. Okay, so we'll add an argument for history, which we don't want to use -h for. That's already for help. Either have HI or HI. Well, so I do have in mind a few different commands, actually. So let's actually do a different one first. Not reply, replay. Let's do -r replay first. So this is going to... Oh, do I need that? What does that do? Never did show you the along thing. Arg parse Python was action. Oh. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that was the case. Oh. Wouldn't we want false then? Store false. The replay will just replay the last one, most recent one. We do need to actually add stuff to the history though, so let's also make a def add. Yeah, we can have it just take the text, and what we will do is entry is an object. Entry is going to have the text. It's going to be text. Have some more stuff. So we want it to have the file as well. That's going to be... this function. I want this to basically generate the file name from the text. And what we're going to do is like file name is text. We want really like space. There's almost certainly other characters we're not allowed to use. sure what all of them are off the top of my head. Can you have question mark in a file? I've been doing lots of questions as tests. Sure if you can have a file name. Like it. Alright. So we'll start with just that, I guess. Return file name. So name.wave, but we also actually want it to be in the folder. Could return a path object. Yeah, I guess we could pass that here as well. Let's actually also make a translation stir, the path object, waves, call it then here. Name. Um, we actually probably want to do this somewhere else because we don't want to wait until we're ready to add it to the history to generate this file name, because we need this file name here when we write file. So let's go maybe history. This could actually just be entry. We'll call this, we'll get the object, we'll pass it to here. Not even really need a function for this one, but keep it for now. Here we have the translation. So actually, I think maybe we store the translation as well. We have translated text. I think also it would be good to have the link, the 2-letter key for it. History entry with the text is actually first, the input string, then the translation. Text. Then the language, so it basically just did these backwards. Language, we actually don't want this variable language though, because that is the full word, and I really just want the 2-letter code, I think. Args language instead, actually, which will be code. That will create the entry. We can then use well, can't actually return. So if this is going to return a path object, I don't know what will happen when we try to write path object to JSON. I'm not sure if it will work. We could find out. If it does work, then we don't have to do anything. It should be easy enough. Even if it doesn't, we can just call absolute on it, I think. Or maybe not absolute, but relative. Get created, and then we'll file here. Then here we'll go add to history the entry. And I guess another thing we can do here is go ahead and write it. Create save history, I suppose, but I think here. So we history file, we write. Oh, actually, I already have a save. Fair enough. Okay. Save it. Fine. So if we need to, we can just call string or relative path or something. Should create stuff for us. So let's run this. Go back to default. Say voices are different. Go levels, beats, bit rate. Oh, okay. I think it. So it's actually doesn't like. Even before we got to trying to write the JSON, it doesn't like. This is a path object which allows doing this, but it's saying we cannot. We need path. There we go. Okay. Path has no. Alright, so that one does not seem to like. So. I suppose we don't know if this one's gonna work either. Maybe that one doesn't actually work. I assumed since it put this here and it knew this was a path that this would be valid. And I guess we did get past the with open, but oh, this is wave open, which is a different thing. Oh, okay. So this is totally wanting a string, not a path object. Oh, right way to just get it as a relative path. It doesn't need to be absolute. I know it has an absolute, but This will play the sound when you. Oh, it did work, but it did the thing I asked it not to do. So that is one of the challenges of this project, and I presume lots of projects involving LLM. So interestingly, it did it differently, right? This time it actually did a translation and it was fine. This time we got a translation and it looks like it was basically the same, but it went on to explain the fact that it made a translation. So it's like, note, the user was in English and asked for a translation to Spanish. The task requires translating English to Spanish without providing any additional information or explanations. Yeah, so it gave and yeah, it it hints at what we have in the system prompt is like, you're a translator, please translate this. Please do not do any explanations or notes or anything else. Do not explain anything, only output the trans. So like I've tried to be like, please don't. But occasionally it's still like, what if I did instead? So yeah, this time we got like a whole bunch of sort of meta output rather than just the translation by itself, which is what we really want. Luckily, so far, every time I've seen it do this, knock on wood, that was a keyboard actually, so I knocked on wood the second time. It puts a new line? So we could just ignore everything after the first new line and hope that it always, if it does, like, explicitly ignore the instructions, even though it seems to know that they were part of the instructions. We could at least hopefully, for the speaking half of it, not speak all of this. Because, like, if this had not crashed, the rest of this would have gone to try and, like, use the Spanish voice to speak all of this, which is mostly English, so it would have been weird. And it's obviously not really what we want the translator to do. So maybe now is just the time that... Split on new line, only take the thing before the first new line. Does it normally put a new line at the end? Maybe this one. Add a new... Okay, how about we, just in case, we say if the length of that is 0, then we actually use the first one. Index 1, second one in the list of things resulting from split. Not sure if that's actually... It did actually output a new line on that one, but it sure looks like... Wait for that to just cut off. And not say anything at all. I think that should work around it. It's a little gnarly. All right, and then yeah, what I was hinting at before was JSON is not allowed to just store a POSIX path, a path object. So here, I think would be an appropriate place to do this. We can say, do I want to keep the POSIX path thing? Better make sure there's more than one split. So, yeah, that would be technically true. If there's not more than one, we're going to end up with nothing, and I think raising the exception wouldn't be terrible because it did break. But we could say... How about this, actually? Let's say if the one was 0, then let's go range, length, variable. Length of parts. I actually need to... actually, we could just say... Right? Or in parts, if length of part... We'll just say the first one that's not 0. If the length of part is greater than 0, translation is part. So we'll try to take whatever's before the first new line. If that is empty, then we will take the first line that has more than 0 characters. I think that should handle also making sure we don't index out of bounds. Yeah, good call. Thank you, Fire Wizard. I think, although I have... Well, yeah, I think I recognize the icon. All right, POSIX path we need to fix. Maybe I shouldn't have put the path object there. Maybe I should just have a string on the file always anyway. And we could just make it into a POSIX path if we need to. That's actually probably the best. Why don't we just stringify that to store on the object? This realistically should... If we're going to keep this as path object, then that should be path, I think. But we will store on the history object string. Is there any reason to do that? I mean, our wave thing is expecting a string anyway. I guess what I'm thinking the POSIX path is nice for is the exists, because later on we can like make sure that the file we're trying to play exists. So like if the user says replay the last one, but the file's been deleted, then we can't, right? So a play would give an output, some kind of error, file not found or something, but it would be nice of us to check and be like our own error. More specific to our own thing here. I think I'm actually just going to return a string from here. Put that back to file name. Technically a path because it has a directory in it, so keep it. The whole point I changed it was because it was a path object. This. Has it actually been saving? I think it failed every time, right? Yeah. Oh, interestingly, That would be should have the empty list, I thought. Start clearing the screen. I keep getting tricked by the old error. Oh, um, you didn't hear it because it turns out it still didn't play, but it did not play the correct translation. It played the most recent one we did. It was either German or Italian or something, and it's because it played translation.wave. We're gonna need to update this down here to play the file that we just created. It's actually here now. This one actually doesn't need to string this anymore. Setting its volume lower. That's still the wrong one. Maybe I didn't save.
Willkommen zum Westrium.
Back down again.
Willkommen zum Westrium. Willkommen zum Vivestrium.
Alright, let me know if that's too loud. I got the speaker sitting up now by the microphone so y'all can actually hear. And then obviously you just saw me mess with the volume, so I turned it up a bit. Okay. So did I not save? I did not save. Okay, so let's do that. Run this one. See if we get Spanish.
¿Dónde está la tienda de computadoras?
I am pretty sure that the volume actually just reverted back down again. Yeah. So I don't know why this is always changing. For some reason, the volume keeps changing itself. Something else is changing it. Does A play mess with the volume? I mean, it played loud once, right? So Maybe we want that? First file.
Willkommen zum Vestrium. Willkommen zum Vestrium.
Making sure.
Willkommen zum Vivestrium. Willkommen zum Vivestrium.
See if it stays up. Let it here as well, so it runs from inside this thing. All right, and it did play Spanish correctly, so that's good. So now what we can do is, did this end up in here correctly? Yeah. In fact, we have a bunch of copies of it. I think I'm gonna do actually extra. And what I would like to do, so I guess let's implement replay first. And then we'll do the next thing I want to do. So if replay was true, we are not going to bother doing any LLM. We're not going to bother doing any text-to-speech. We're not going to do any of that stuff. We're just going to say if parser access these. Okay, so that's by name, so that'll be replay. If that's true, if it's replay, then what we're going to do is I will admit being not entirely sure like why language works when it's the second one. There must be some magic in there. This play turn because we're not inside a function. I mean, okay, same thing as REPL, I suppose, right? Fair enough. Input is required. False. That's correct, but it seems... Options only? I can take a list. Okay. Python arg parse optional arg. In args question mark. Okay. Made it past that, but we in fact do not have a replay, much like the IDE was telling us. So it is odd that it says that it wants a list, but giving it a list, we're giving it multiple arguments, which is kind of a subtly different thing. It must be figuring that out somehow. Don't actually, maybe. IDE still thinks it. Doesn't actually have the things it has. It has dynamic stuff to get the things it has. First type. Optional action. Hmm. Or true. Args verbose. It doesn't like having the dash R? But I want one that's dash R. I don't want to type the whole thing. It still does not even have that thing. Have I not parsed yet? No, I parsed right here. Why is it so hard to do a Boolean? This is what I did. Very confused. So replay, I gave it a default. Let me get rid of that. Action store true. I mean, mine is literally the same now. It's not verbose, but it's a different flag name. I have a help, which I don't, but I give. Go args. Ah, I did parser. Ah, okay, I'm being silly. Here we go. Actually, I do want this. Now dash dash replay doesn't work. Nor does R. Oh, oh, okay, okay. Mad that I, oop, it was just mad that I didn't have, okay, finally we're there. And replay too? Replay? Dash dash? Ah, okay, we're there. We made it. Problem was me. I was being silly. And we got it. How many? Oh, I haven't been doing that. That's fine. Okay, so if we're gonna replay, then all we need to do is get the most recent thing. So most recent entry equals history object history -1, and then I almost think we should make a function def play translation that will take a entry object, history entry object. I'm actually going to call it even more specifically play translation wave. So then here we'll be able to say play translation wave most recent.
¿Dónde está la tienda de computadoras?
Pretty sure the volume went back down.
¿Dónde está la tienda de computadoras?
But it does work now, playing the most recent translation. Although we only have one, so we should probably fancy with it.
¿Cuántas computadoras hay? ¿Cuántas computadoras hay?
Nice.
¿Cuántas computadoras hay?
Perfect. Now we can replay the most recent one. The next thing I would like to do is, if you pass the same text again and we've already done it, then just use the one we've already done. Although it does occur to me now, well, we could just lower both, I guess. Okay, so here, have the language. The one place where maybe a dictionary might be good is if we had keys here, then we wouldn't have to loop. This is going to end up just looping, which will be fast if the list is small. Fast if the list is medium. But if the list grows like very, very large, it will slow down, I presume. But for now, let's take the naive approach. So let's just say, basically, I want to check and see if we've already done this one before. So 4, 3. Thing. Lowercase. I want to compare with lowercase. That way, if you like capitalize the first letter or not. If the input text that has come in now is the same as one of the ones we've done before, and the language is the same as the language that's being asked for here, then what we will do is replay it instead of translate it again and make a new wave file and make a new history entry. This will make it go much faster if you input the same message again. So then in this case, if we go back to here, or language, do the loop. Did I spell it wrong? Spelled it wrong.
¿Cuántas computadoras hay?
So now it knows we already did this one, and it won't do the whole thing again, right? It's not going to go through the LLM again. It's not going to go through the wave generation again. It will just play the one we have. I'm out of coffee. I'm gonna run to the restroom, I think. So I'll be right back. Okay, so next thing I want to do, I think it would be nice if you could. So right now we can replay the most recent one, but I think it'd be nice if you could replay all of the old ones. Which for one thing will want a way to list all of the old ones. So we need a history flag, I think. Another thing actually I need to do, since I did store true, and I was under the impression before that maybe that was the default value, we need to make sure that, I guess I did with this one. To make sure that this doesn't just read, it's not, so that's good. Because for a minute there, I thought store true meant the default value was true. But I guess that's not.
Wo ist der Käseladen?
Oh. I don't really like -t, but ready at the moment. So one thing to decide, so like the way I would like this to work is this is going to print a list of all the ones you've done, but it's going to print a number with each one of them. And then I would like you to be able to do, hopefully the replay command with a number, and it will replay that one, whichever one you asked for. But I got to decide how I want the numbers to work, right? Because replay, we could just so we could just go directly with the index of the list. So we could say replay 0 replays the oldest one in the history. Replay 1, replays the next one. Replay 2, all the way up to the current one. Even potentially we could support -1, which is like Pythonism for the for the last one in the list. And there's something compelling about that because it's Pythonic, but for an end user, it might be more familiar or recognizable or something if it was not that, and instead if it was like replay 1 would give you the most recent one, and 2 would be, the second most recent one, and 3 would be the third most recent one. So it would like start counting at the end and go backwards instead. I think I do actually like that better. So I'm going to say for I entry in enumerate reversed history, print I colon next. say I know which language. Spell it wrong again. Did I spell it wrong in the thing? Just thinking if you don't reverse, then you'd be able to replay a static number to bring back a particular message. Not sure what. Oh, yeah, it won't change, basically. So, like, replay 0 will always replay that as long as you don't manipulate your history list. So, that is true. Inconvenient. Yeah. Although I was thinking ultimately of giving them the option of rotating history as well. So, like, only keep the last 100 or the last 20, depending on, like, hard drive space or something, basically. I don't think the WAV files are that big, though. Look, maybe they're huge. Probably not that big. $100K each so far. Will depend on the length and everything. So if it were rotating, then that would also break the static numbers as well. But it would only break it once you started rotating. But then thereafter, it would break it on everyone who did it, though. I don't have any rotating implemented yet. I think I still like this list to rotate. What we could add maybe later is a, like, favorites or something, where you could favorite one and then basically assign it a number and then have that be a static thing. That way you would always be able to replay the same one with that number. But for history replay, I think I like the backwards. Now, may be able to tell from my voice I'm not 100% convinced away, so maybe I end up changing it. The other thing that I did was, I think, like, again, if we're aiming for most natural to users, probably starting on 1 is natural to, like, end more so than developers. That'd be 1, 2, 3. And then I made this optional here. Can I check it here though?
Wo ist der Käseladen? Wo ist der Käseladen?
Again. So then let's say if they inputted a number, so the I assume this will raise an exception if this fails. A number from that. For now. Basically, if you give it a non-number, then I wonder if we should use exit one for a second. Number, and then in order to do my well, okay, so call this chosen entry. This down further. Else here. So if there's a number, we know it's an integer. We're actually gonna say if. So else, if that was a number, then there's gonna be this. Do -1 though. We need to get backwards essentially. So x equals the length minus the replay number -1. Because if the replay number they passed was 1, I don't think those are necessary, but I make my brain happier. The replay number they passed was 1. This will be 0. Ah, no. We don't want that to be 0. We would want that to be 1. Replay number is 1. We will say length -1. If the replay number was 3, we would say length -3, which would give us 0, which would be the index. I think that might be correct. Then chosen entry equals index. Then play the chosen entry. I wonder if we should print the translation also? Well, we could do that here, though, actually. This. Well, I guess we could do it inside of there. Currently, we're not. Currently, we're doing it here. Someone told me how to watch the Saturday stream. Said he would put the link, but I can't find it. The link is there. Well, you can't hear me. Oh, although fortunately we are getting towards the end of it, but right, it's a lot of coffee. I want to print the translation. Okay. Translate history. Oh, that's help. Then it's say translate replay one. One is the essentially.
Käse laden.
Yeah. Play two.
¿Cuántas computadoras hay?
3.
¿Dónde está la tienda de computadoras?
Cool. Okay, so we can replay all the ones in the history list. Sure, we haven't broken anything in the actual translating. We do language. Haven't done it. I don't know, not very creative when it comes to like what to translate. Interesting the different. First week. Broke replay with no number. Oh, right. Da, da, da. If it's in put this error, otherwise we go on because this will get tripped. Okay, so that was not actually from my catch. So it's a type error if it's none, but it's a value error if it's okay. So let's catch this and this. No, I just realized I have not been looking at all any of the other chats. Okay. It's got the old by streamers. Viewers. It's cool. Is there a little sword now? Clean up on aisle Twitch chat for a minute, sorry. All right, so we'll catch both types. If it's not none, we'll do print the error. We can replay. Plays the last one. We can replay full word. And history. And then replay 2.
Käse laden.
Yeah, totally. One more thing I think we should... Okay. One more thing I think we should print here is the language. This prints the translation, but not the language. So here, I think we should do... have to use.
Käse laden.
Still out of coffee. It might be kind of nice if it printed the English version as well, come to think of it. But I suppose that is kind of one difference between when you actually do a new one. Because here you still have the English text right there. But when we do this, it might actually be nice to have both. Especially if it came from a replay.
Bienvenue à diffuser.
At some point it would be, I'm pretty sure that it should be possible to also have this work the other way around. Right now it's always English to another language. I'm pretty sure that the LLM should work the exact same way. I think I could just swap out, well, I have English hard-coded, but I think I could just make a from language and a to language and just swap out English with a from language. You could go from another language to English, or you could even go from, you know, Spanish to Italian or Spanish to French or whatever. You could go between those without English. I'm pretty sure the LLM itself would support that, and then we have all the voices to do it as well with the text-to-speech thing too, so that is a possibility. We would need to accept an argument. We would not be able to just like guess the language correctly. I don't think. We could maybe, the LLM might be able to do that, but I don't think I want to. Because A, it might get it wrong and make the whole thing weirder. But B, it will take a bunch of extra time, right? If we're doing we're doing 2 calls to the LLM, say like, hey, what language is this? And then have it answer us in English, and then from there we know the input language to tell it for the next request. Or the other option would be the system prompt says, try to guess the input language, and then maybe it would do that for us. and then there's only one prompt, but that prompt would take longer, I think, every time, because it would always be trying to infer the input language first and then doing the output. Whereas if we just direct it, I think it's got a better chance of doing it correctly, first of all, and not like telling us about it, right? Because that's the other struggle here, is sometimes it still wants to explain itself. So it might go on to be like, I think the input text is in English because of this and this and this. And you're like, thank you, but you weren't supposed to output that. I think I would rather have it just be a thing you input, but I also don't think I'm going to do that with the next 10 minutes. So yeah, actually with the next couple of minutes, let's get this good enough to where we could push it into a repo and other folks could hack on it a bit if they wanted. Just gonna say Pi 5. This might work on a Pi 4. I haven't tested it, but it might work. I do not necessarily suspect that it would work on any below the 4. Star.onyx. I don't want to check these in. Voices. That's the other thing I would still need for doing translations to English. I would actually still need a English voice. Hyper does have, of course, but I don't currently have downloaded. I have only 2 languages, are Spanish, German, French, Italian, and Portuguese. So download voices. Llama. And then for yeah, I think those are the only things that need to be, the only Python libraries that need to be installed. Each one of those installs a bunch of other stuff. I mean, it's not like just those 2 are but they will chain and do their. Python virtual environment. Say create and activate Create an environment, activate it, install Python dependencies, install -r requirement text. Need to install a llama. Very easy. Here. Put that at the beginning. Install Olama here. Environment, install these. Download the voices. In the helper script. Manually if you want. It's these text. I call that down. Voices. That's going to download the Onyx files and the Onyx JSON files, which are needed for the text to speech. But I don't want to check them into my repo since they're not really mine to like redistribute. They come from their own package and everything. Okay. That's it for installation as far as I can recall. Usage is... So for one thing, we could play -8. We could put at the end there LN3 L. Both things there, I think. Definitely still room for improvement. Not comprehensive documentation, but it's English text from a string to another language. Using all three speaks hyper. Oh, actually, I just remembered there is another setup thing as well. Put it in. All right, so in installation, after you install Olama, actually the next thing you need to do is create, I don't know if this is the proper terminology or not, but I'm going to call it this, create a local LLM, let's see, create a local Ollama LLM instance for small LLM3. This command. So this is the thing I said I was going to explain way back at the beginning and never actually did. Small LLM3, so inside of Ollama, there's this whole list of models, and you can use any of these models without doing this step that I'm about to document. So if you wanted to use any of these models that are listed here, you could go into here and you could copy the model name, and then you could put that in your code right about here, where you tell Ollama which model you want to use. And that's awesome. These are all like hosted in some central repository thing where it knows how to pull them. Small LLM3 though actually is not there. There's small LLM2, there's small LLM, the original one, I guess. All of these are a bit older, and so now there is a third one which is more new, which is I think better and has the languages. I don't know if they all have multi-languages or not, but so we want to use the new one. And the thing is that it is hosted in a central repository thing in Hugging Face, I guess. It's just not hosted in Ollama's central repository of like officially listed models. So what we need to do is we have this model file, which is just a template essentially. It might even be like a Genja template perhaps, which is a Python templating language. I'm not positive if that's the case, but I think maybe. Definitely very similar, if not the exact same. So it has this template which kind of defines like some stuff about the model. I'm not sure, like some of this I don't think is actually probably fully necessary. Like you don't need to know the date necessarily. I guess you could ask it for like, what's today's date? It could tell you that in Spanish or something. I don't know if it really needs that or not. I'm not sure how to enable this, honestly. Is think set, but I'm not sure. I assume it's false by default, but I don't actually know, and I'm not sure how to set it. But this, so this is like kind of a meta sort of like system prompt setup, like a whole template of how Ollama should interact with this model. It tells it, you know, here's the model that you're actually going to download, and then here's the template of how you're going to interact with that model with the text, basically. It's got all these different rules and stuff in it. And then it does have a couple parameters as well, like temperature and top P, which are a bit over my head, but the very, very quick version of it, how I understand it, these basically affect the like randomness of the model output, the small LLM3 LLM model output. So like if you wanted it to be more random, you get more creative results that are not the same every time. If you want it to be less random, then, you know, you get less creative results, you know, but more like repetitive and stuff, which is more like what we want for a translator. We don't want it to take too many liberties. We don't want it to like write a creative story for us, right? We just want like, you know, boom, bang, here's the translation, nothing else. So I have set this to relatively, I don't even remember if it's high or low, but I have tried to set these to be on the less random side, both of these variables, but there's still probably ability to tweak those, and I'm sure there is an ability to tweak this as well. The other thing about this prompt is it's way overkill. I think it's kind of set up for a conversation for you to be able to go back and forth with the model. So you could actually like have an ongoing conversation with it, which we're not doing at all. But you know, there's nothing stopping us from using this even for our like individual little ones there. And so I think I'll choose a different name for this though. We'll call this maybe Translator small LLM3 something, although I think I may have done. Forget this stuff. Flag. Yeah, I actually did do a Translator small. I'm gonna really that one. I don't know how. RM. This translator, so yeah, because this is not listed in Olama's like central repository thing, instead we have this model file, and we need to run this command. I don't know off the top of my head, but luckily it's saved in here. I think it was create, actually. Create, give it a name, and then give it a file. Llama create, and we want to make sure this name matches what I put here. Later small LM3, and then -F, and then the file name, which is this file, which will get checked into the repo. Okay. I know we're basically at the end here, and I pretty much just need to push this, but I do need to run to the restroom again, so I'm going to do that in BRB, and then push this, and then I'll wrap up after that. Okay. Any tips? This is on Twitch. Any tips for dealing with DePi's audio backend in Debian? I don't necessarily have any tips. I'm sorry. Basically, the only thing I know about the audio stuff is documented on this page, but it's all about setting up the Adafruit voice bonnet. So if you're not using the Adafruit voice bonnet, it is likely of limited use to you, although maybe there's some interesting nuggets like the tester utility and the volume utility and stuff like that. But in terms of actually like getting a audio thing installed, this will mostly just help you install the one piece of hardware, this voice bonnet thing. I don't necessarily know much beyond that for getting stuff set up. Theoretically, like HDMI should work, I think. Sound. I'm positive on that, but Translator for the Raspberry Pi. I'm just going to say for the Pi 5, again, it might work on the Pi 4. I don't know for sure. I'm not claiming that it does. But I'm doing the Pi 5, and certainly it will be faster if anything else on the Pi 5. In fact, maybe significantly. If I recall right, LLM 3 was pretty slow on the 4, if I remember. Trying to build an audio application in Python for the first time, it's a pain. I gotcha. Yeah, I ended up kind of chickening out on that front, and I have Python code, but the actual the actual sound I'm not doing from Python. I just do OS system A play. File. Probably protect against should probably protect against command injection. Actually, I just realized. So we're calling system here. If the user got super tricky with the text they asked it to translate, it could maybe like you could maybe inject a shell command here. I think probably it would be weird because it's the file name. So we took the input from the user. We did strip some stuff, and then we made it into a file. Suspect a crafty user could probably inject shell. But yeah, I kind of the easy road, unfortunately, as far as being able to shed light on it goes. Talking translator for the Pi 5 uses small LLM3 to translate text, and Piper 1 to speak. Have a read and a get ignore. You want this license file though. It's actually and get clone that one. And then eventually I'll clone this repo on the Pi. That way I have actually working out of the repo there. Right now I just have, I don't think I said anything about it at the beginning, but I have SSH FS to mount the Pi to my local computer here. That way I can have this project open in PyCharm, but it's actually a project that lives on the Pi itself. All these files are actually on the Pi, not my local computer. They're just mounted through that thing. Translator, trust, new. Now what we will copy everything. I should add translation waves and history to the get ignore. Or I copy. Well, the folder we want actually. Yeah, the folder we want. It's just the file. Let's do this. Git keep. Make sure that the folder lives, and then we'll say translation waves r.wave. I think that should work. History .json, we don't want to add that. And I think that there is a second model file I tried here, which was more simplified. It doesn't have the date and all the stuff. It may end up that this is better to use in the end, but when I did a quick test with it, it was much slower than this one was. So I don't know if I did it wrong. I will say one thing I did do was remove the system prompt from here. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, but it basically is in this thing too. So I thought maybe that would do it. Not sure. That was just another attempt, but it ended up being slower in like 2 tests essentially. So I kind of just over back to this one. Worth more thorough testing. Haven't done it yet. Okay, I think we're ready to copy all of this stuff to the repo. And here, the IDE catches up. I'm gonna cancel all of those. Nicely, it's showing orange for all the ones that are in git ignore, so that's cool. 3, yeah, there as well. Ooh, that one didn't work, it looks like. Hmm. Hmm. Well, for now, I can just manually add that. Figure that out at some point, though. I like to use GitHub name for remote names instead of origin. Git add, not git ignore. Try add all and see. Totally added these wave files. That was from before I started saving them in this folder. Okay. I can go git rm -- cached. Wait. Oh, there's probably a way that work, but for now I'm just gonna keep like red means that they're not added. They're not in the ignore, they're not correctly being ignored, but they're still not added, so they won't go to the repo. But git keep will, which means the folder will as well. And then I did end up adding this, right? Yeah, Olama creates that from that file, which means when you run translate, you'll be able to use it. Okay. I haven't explained very much here. Anyone who watches the stream will know how it works roughly because you saw me use it a bunch of times, but yeah, at some point I'll expand the documentation. Now we're just gonna go with the help. Get it pushed. And we're ready. Not to submit file. Idea folder. We don't want. rm-r-cached. Keep, ignore, download the voices shell script. Put all these in, right? Yeah. Readme, yes. Requirements, yes. Model file, yes. Translate pi, yes. We'll just put the other model file as well, even though it's not used. Okay. That's interesting. So it sees that the that the README exists, but the files are still there. Go. All right. Okay, that is pushed. It's there. RPi talking translator under GitHub Foamy Guy. If anyone wants to mess with that. Thank you to everyone for watching. I appreciate anyone who's watching this. If you would like more programming content, more Python programming content, I would encourage you to subscribe if you're not already on either YouTube or Twitch. I do usually work on Circuit Python stuff. We're on the Raspberry Pi today in Big Python, you know, C Python, whereas I do normally work on microcontroller stuff. But, you know, just like today, I do venture out into the C Python world from time to time as well. So if that's your thing, you can still subscribe and check in. Thanks again, everyone who's watching. Hope you have a good rest of your day, good weekend, all of that. I will be back at the normal times next week. Friday on Halloween. Are we going to do a deep dive on Halloween? I will say tentatively yes. I mean, I don't have any specific other plan exactly. Kind of early for trick-or-treaters, so hopefully I'm not just getting interrupted with the door over and over or anything. Yeah, I didn't realize it was on Friday, but I will say for now, tentatively yes. I think I'll be back for deep dive on Friday the 31st. Maybe I'll find something spooky to work on. So tentatively, we'll see. But certainly, I think the Saturday is good to go. So next Saturday, the 1st of November, I'll be back here on my channel at the normal time, 10 a.m. Central. We will be working on some more Python or CircuitPython stuff. Until then, so long, farewell. Thanks for watching.